Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee. And this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, and Patreon, and contact Dayspring Discussions on the Facebook group, Twitter account, and dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Guys, happy Tuesday. Hope everyone is getting their week started off right. It is a sunny day here in Austin, Texas. It's my day off. I just got back from the pool. I did a little lap swimming, and it's the first time of the season that I got to the pool, so I'm feeling pretty good. Every, couple of months or 2 months, whatever, I like to change up my workout a little bit. I get a little bored with the same workout, so I change it up. Summertime, usually I do some lap swimming, mixed in with a few other things throughout the week, and getting in the pool for the first time this season was great. Didn't do a lot, not gonna lie. I didn't swim 1,000 miles or something like that. I just did a little light just to get back into it, but it felt really good, of course. Summer's here. I love being in the pool. I love the water. We're taking a trip to the beach here in a couple months, so it's time to be outside, time to enjoy it, guys. Hope you guys are enjoying your summer, of course. Speaking of enjoying summer, a lot of good stuff going on in the world of entertainment. I'm going to talk about that. But first, of course, this is an X-Men referenced show. Obviously, if you haven't heard me mention it time after time after time after time. So, whenever there's some X-Men news, I like to lead off with that. So, let's just go off the top with some X-Men news, guys. So, starting off, Dark Phoenix. Now, I'm going to go a little maybe conspiracy theory here. So, bear with me. I usually don't like to do this kind of stuff, but it is kind of an X-Men thing, so I just want to kind of briefly mention it. So last week, X-Men Dark Phoenix came out, and I went and saw it expecting something bad, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't great. There were a lot of flaws in it, but it wasn't horrible as what I was to expect. Now, it was the second weekend for it, and unfortunately, the film that didn't do good its first weekend dropped 72% this weekend. Not good at all for the film. I guess you could say that I think Fox is going to take a bath on this one, which now is really Disney, so Disney is going to take a bath. But now there are these rumors, conspiracies, call them what you will, that maybe Dark Phoenix was doomed to fail. So if you look at the evidence, okay, after this film has come out, Simon Kinberg, first of all, has taken full responsibility for the badness of the film. I guess, sorry, my vocabulary is not that large, guys. So anyway, he takes, he wrote it, he directed it, so he's taking responsibility for it. I sense something there. And then, of course, you mix in the fact that a lot of the actors are saying that there were different endings to the film. Of course, we all know there were reshoots that took place and that pushed the film back to where they had to change the ending of the film. A lot of the actors in there are saying it's because there were very similarities between this and another superhero film that had recently come out, which we're coming to find out is maybe a little bit of Civil War, given the fact that there was supposed to be a showdown at the end with Charles and Cyclops and Jean at a UN building, kind of a small skirmish, kind of what we got at the end of Captain America Civil War, but also with Captain Marvel. So Jessica Chastain's character in the film, of course, I'm going some spoilers, guys, so if you haven't seen the film by now, too bad. Pause, go see the film, come back, then you can listen to this. So the Dabari, I forget exactly the name, but they're a race of aliens, and in the film, they want the Phoenix Force to recreate their planet on Earth, which, of course, is a Zod Man of Steel thing. Again, not going to get into that. In the comics, the Dabari was the planet that Dark Phoenix destroyed when she ate their sun, and the whole solar system collapsed, killing billions, is what it is. Now, in the comics, they were just kind of normal aliens. There wasn't anything special about them. In the movie, they're shapeshifters, okay? Which is very similar to the Skrulls in Captain Marvel. And at the end, of course, they said there was going to be some battle between Jean/Dark Phoenix and the aliens, which seems very similar to what we got at the end of Captain Marvel. So what we know is that Dark Phoenix was set to come out in November, then got pushed back to February, then got pushed back to June, which put it past what Captain Marvel was. We also know Kevin Feige has said that Captain Marvel, aka Brie Larson, will play a big part of the MCU's plans going forward. And of course, we also know that this is the last Fox X-Men film. After this, they're going to start from scratch, go probably into the MCU, owned by Disney, redone by Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige. So what you can kind of speculate at this point is that as the Fox Disney deal was looming towards the end, of course, you're not supposed to meddle. Like Kevin Feige says, oh, we can't do anything with the X-Men until the deal's closed. We can't even talk about it until the deal's closed. Whatever, okay? I said this to my friend who I texted the other night after he saw Dark Phoenix, okay? Kevin Feige said he's got the next 5 years planned already before the Fox Disney deal closed, okay? I have no right to make an X-Men film, but I know exactly what I'd do if I did. So just because you don't own something doesn't mean can't think in your head what you would do with it. So here's what kind of we're leading, is that Dark Phoenix was a sacrifice to Captain Marvel, to Marvel Studios, really, is what happened, is that they saw their ending was going to be similar to Captain Marvel. Disney maybe sent a little birdie over and told them, hey, this is kind of a little too similar to our film, so just go ahead and change it, guys, because we're about to own you. And they had to change it. The mounting theory is that Dark Phoenix was sacrificed because of Captain Marvel, because of the fact that it was the last X-Men Fox film, and Disney was like, who cares? It's a theory, guys. It's something to talk about. I'm not saying I believe it, but in this business, in this day and age, I wouldn't put it past them. So you guys know on that, of course, fire back on the social media groups and Gmail account. Let me know what you think about that. Next up, sticking with the X-Men. So Marvel has been teasing these seminal moments of X-Men for the last, I think, month or two. And what it is that Jonathan Hickman, a very well-known Marvel writer, is going to be taking over X-Men and allegedly going to be doing some big changes with the X-Men. I don't know, because they're really teeing this up to be a big moment of change in the X-Men. And I think it's going to be overhyped. I mean, I'm a long-time X-Men reader, of course. So, I still read the X-Men. Right now, I think they have Uncanny X-Men and X-Force. And then they're doing Age of X books, which are alternate realities, which I really don't read because I don't think they're very good. I like Uncanny because they brought back Cyclops and Wolverine. And of course, their dynamic is great. And what they're trying to do right now with their team, I really enjoy. X-Force, not a huge fan of it, but the way they're dealing with Cable, a young Cable, and right now they're dealing with Strife and Rachel Summers. Really enjoying that as well. So those are really two X books that I read. After this, they're going to restart next month. And they said change X-Men forever. I've heard this before, okay? Every writer wants to change these characters, okay? Let's look at, say, Spider-Man, okay? You can let Spider-Man grow. In the 90s, I remember, my brother's a huge Spider-Man fan, where he grew up, he got married, he was changing from what the status quo. The status quo is that Peter Parker is a young man living in New York, photographer for the Daily Bugle. That's kind of the status quo, what everyone knows about Spider-Man. And then Civil War happened, and then One More Day happened, where they broke him and MJ up, and he basically erased almost 20 years of Spider-Man history to get him back to the status quo, because you have to keep these characters accessible for new readers. If someone watches a Spider-Man movie, they need to be able to go to their local comic shop and pick up a Spider-Man comic book and not be completely lost with decades of history that they haven't learned yet. I totally understand that. So when you say you're going to change the X-Men fundamentally, I call bullshit, because you can't steer them that far away from their status quo. Bringing characters back, of course, Cyclops, Wolverine, they've already been brought back, which you knew they were coming back. As of right now, the rest of the team is pretty much dead thanks to Legion and X-Man, which don't even get me started on the fact that they brought Jean Grey back just to kill her within like a year again. But I know she's coming back too, so I'm not too upset about that. But as an X-Men reader, I'm excited for what Jonathan Hickman might do. I enjoyed his run on Fantastic Four. It was very crazy and zany and out there, which that's what I think Fantastic Four should be, because they're scientists, Reed is, and getting something zany like that is, I think, what is up their wheelhouse. And then Avengers, not too bad. So I'm not a huge fan of Jonathan Hickman. I honestly am enjoying what Matthew Rosenberg is doing on the book right now with Cyclops and Wolverine and his team. So I'm going to be sad to see that go, but they're teeing this up to be a big deal. I honestly don't think it's going to be that big. I think there might be some changes to start off, but you're not going to stray too far away from the status quo. Eventually, it's like a rubber band, okay? It's got to come back to what it was, to the status quo, because otherwise you're going to lose those new readers who want to try to jump on board. For me, I always thought, I loved back in the 90s what DC did with the Superman books. You had 4 books, and they were all numbered. So a number 1 usually meant you could jump on and be okay. And I feel like that's what you do. Instead of like having 50 Uncanny X-Men number 1s, just put a little number somewhere on the book. Keep your original number, but put a number somewhere on the cover saying what number it is of the storyline or of the new writer, so that someone who wants to jump into it doesn't have to go back and get, hundreds of issues of X-Men. They just maybe have to go back and get like 4 or 5 issues to understand what's going on. That's what I would do, of course, but what do I know? I've just been reading comics my whole life. But you guys fire back, of course. Let me know what you think about these X-Men topics, of course. I'll be glad to discuss them on Facebook, Twitter, and, of course, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Okay, guys, next up, Todd Phillips, who is directing the Joker film starring Joaquin Phoenix that comes out this fall. He went on his Instagram and kind of answered a question from a fan and basically confirmed that the Joker film will indeed be rated R. There was some speculation about it. People weren't quite sure, of course, given the fact that it's Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips, maybe getting a little edgier film. And from the trailer, the first trailer we got, it does seem like it is going to be a little edgier, not just a straightforward, DCU film or whatever. Not going to play that PG-13 superhero line. Now, when the first trailer came out for this, I think I was actually in Chicago at Star Wars Celebration, and I wasn't doing shows, so I didn't get a chance to talk about it too much. I, for one, have never really been a fan of doing a Joker film. It's those villain origin stories that, honestly, I don't care about, mainly because I'm not a villain type of guy, and also because I think the most interesting thing about villains are their relationships to the heroes, much like, again, how I wasn't a big fan of the Venom film, because it's Venom's hatred and disdain for Spider-Man and Peter Parker and their relationship that makes him most interesting. So I wasn't for the Tom Hardy Venom film. I thought it was atrocious, actually, too, and I never ever want to see that film again, but they're making a sequel of it, so that's neither here nor there. But anyway, with this Joker film, the trailer looked interesting, and I'm all for taking the genre to the next level, much like how Logan did. Just transcends the genre, so to speak. The Dark Knight. Films like that make you forget for a sec that these are comic book superhero characters, and that looks like something to do. I will say that you can kind of tell where this film's going, where he's pretty much a schmuck who gets kicked down and pretty much, eventually has too much. He's got a weird relationship with his mother, kind of a Norman Bates thing going on that might play into it as well. It comes out in November. It's going to be rated R, no problem. But here's what I say to that. People are like, yeah, it's rated R. Guys, come on, really? Rated R does not mean it's good, okay? I can tell you a million rated R movies, some of which are based on comic books or sci-fi fantasy characters, that suck, okay? The R does not mean anything, okay? So let's just get over that right now. Again, it looks interesting, and I'm definitely going to check it out. But we'll see how it goes. But I'm just saying, just because it's rated R, don't get your hopes up. Don't be like, oh yeah, it's definitely going to be a good movie now. If you think it's going to be a good movie, I will direct you to Todd Phillips' Hangover 2 and Hangover 3, and we can discuss that even further. Of course, Fireback, and I'll be glad to talk about those, guys. Okay, sticking with DC Comics characters, it was announced that actor Drew Van Acker will be joining Titans Season 2 as Aqualad, a.k.a. Garth, a.k.a. Tempest. So the actor announced on his Instagram account that he was going to be playing this character in the upcoming season of DC Universe's Titans. As an Aquaman fan who knows this character, who knows Aqualad, gets me a little excited, of course. I enjoy Titans, I think, more than some other people did. I know a lot of people are into Doom Patrol, and I've watched Doom Patrol. I get why people like it. Like a lot of shows, I get the appeal, but it's just not my cup of tea. I stopped watching, I think, after episode 5 or 6. I fully support the show. It's just not in my wheelhouse, but that's okay. To each his own. I understand why people like it, and that's fine. I like Titans mainly because, I'm more of a Teen Titans guy. I like, the comics and what Jeff Johns did. I've never been a Doom Patrol guy. I've, read or checked out some of Doom Patrol, not my cup of tea. I like Teen Titans. That's probably why I like this show more. Dick Grayson being one of my favorite comic book characters ever because of his history on that. With this, I like it because now you got Dick Grayson, you got Donna Troy, and now you're bringing in Garth, okay? You have 3 of the original Teen Titans in there. Then you got Wally West and Roy Harper, which aren't in this universe, but they're in the Arrowverse. So luckily, if we can get a picture of Drew Van Acker looking like Garth, I'm pretty sure we can pull off a kind of a nice little fan edit picture of all of the original Teen Titans. That would be cool. But bringing this character in, of course, again, a fan of Aquaman and his world. I like the character. Aqualad, aka Garth, goes through some shit throughout his life. So I'm interested to see where they put him at. Titans seems to be like post, after they formed Teen Titans and then they all broke up and went their separate ways and went through some trauma. I'm hoping they're going to put him not as Aqualad, but as Tempest in this. A little more rough, a little more edgy, I guess you would call it. But any event, bringing in this character, I like him. So I don't know the actor, though. I haven't seen Pretty Little Liars, which is what he's most known for. So I can't say anything about how well he'll do with the character. But, there are casting agents that are supposed to do their job to get the best person for the best role. So in that case, I'll just have to trust him. I've loved what they've done with the show so far. Looking forward to season 2. DC Universe, it's become questionable given the fact that Warner Brothers is starting their own streaming service, and there's questions about if the DC Universe will be integrated into it or not. I'm fine with that. I pay for the year-long subscription, though, for DC Universe, so I'd like them not to completely get rid of it until at least my year is done, but you never know about stuff like that. But anyway, guys, of course, Fireback, let me know what you think about this actor. Have you watched Pretty Little Liars? Let me know what you think of the actor. Anyone who listens to this show on a regular basis, I don't expect you to know Pretty Little Liars, but if you do, let me know what you think of the actor. And of course, if you know Aqualad, let me know if you think he's a good fit. Either way, I'm excited for Titans Season 2. Also, Young Justice is coming back soon, so I'm excited for that too, guys. But Fireback, of course, on the social media groups and Gmail account. Let me know. Okay, guys, the last thing I want to talk about is going to be the new trailer for the Amazon show The Boys. But first, while we're on the subject of DC TV shows, I want to talk a little Arrowverse. So I've been going through the Arrowverse shows and finishing off the seasons. And last night, I finished off DC's Legends of Tomorrow. So I watched Black Lightning, Arrow, Flash, and now Legends. And then I still have Supergirl to go through. As I've said, I stopped watching all the shows about halfway through the season because I got tired of all the commercials that added an extra 10 minutes to each show. I watched a lot of stuff, so I just didn't have the time for it. And I knew that Netflix had the deal that after a week after their season finales, they were going to be on Netflix commercial free. So I've actually enjoyed going back and watching the final 9 to 10 episodes, kind of binging them. I think it works pretty well. So I finished Legends of Tomorrow, and I just kind of want to briefly talk about that and a little bit about what's to come with these shows, because also announced yesterday was the season premiere dates for all the shows except for Legends of Tomorrow, because allegedly they're going to wait till mid-season to bring that show back, which means that they're going to miss the big crossover event again, and this year it's going to be Crisis on Infinite Earths. So just to talk a little bit about these shows, minus Supergirl because I haven't watched it. If you guys haven't watched it, of course, pause it, finish at least Arrow, Flash, and Legends, and then you come back and listen to this. So Legends Tomorrow is one of those shows where it's so zany and quirky, you're either going to think it's just a fun ride or you're going to think it's stupid. And it really does toe that line a lot of the time. A lot of the episodes toe that line. And I wasn't a big fan of, the way this season ended with the villain and the fairy godmother and all that stuff as well. But I will say, though, there's some echoes in the writing that kind of, are starting to make me question the Arrowverse. I mean, not starting to, but, they've always been not the best. I mean, you're not talking DC Universe's edgier stuff or Marvel or Netflix or whatever. But here's what I got, okay? First off, let's look at the characters in Legends, specifically say Nate. And then Zatari, is that her name? Hold on. I got it here. It's somewhere. Where is her name? Zari, okay? So the last 2 seasons, I think it was, Nate had a relationship with Amaya, okay? And last season, they did this whole thing, which I think last season was probably my favorite season. The first 2 seasons of Legends of Tomorrow I didn't even like. Last season, they kind of pulled me in a little bit, and I enjoyed last season, which is why I stuck with this season. They had a relationship for a while, going back and forth, but she was from the past. She had to go back to the past to let the present day play out, so she had to end her relationship with Nate. And I like that storyline. The character development, the emotion behind it, I like how that all played out. Towards the end of this season, they put Nate in another relationship with Zari. Now, Zari is from the future, okay? And they kind of just finally got them together in the last couple episodes, only to break them up. Because what happened is that Nate was in danger. Zari had to leave the ship in order to try to help him. But in doing so, she stepped out of the time stream, and the time stream was changing because of what they were doing. Therefore, she would be gone because the time stream, the future would change, and she's from the future, right? So that's kind of what happened, was they changed history, or the future, my bad. They changed the future so Zari no longer existed in the way she was. Now, if that sounds familiar, because the exact same goddamn thing happened on The Flash this season, okay? The whole thing with Nora Allen, okay? She came back from the future to help her parents take out the villain. I don't even remember what the villain was because I thought it was so stupid. Played by Chris Klein. I know that's all I remember about him. But anyway, but she helped change the past, which of course changed the future, which changed the fact that she was no longer going to be there, or the version of her. Not saying that they're still not going to have a kid and she's going to be Nora, but it won't be that version of Nora that they know. So they saw her disappear. It was a dramatic moment. Same thing happens in Legends, where Zari helped change the past, which changed her future, her present, whatever you want to call it, to where she no longer joined the Legends and someone else was a totem bearer of the Wind Totem. Last season, they did something where, what was it? It was on Arrow, Oliver was on trial for the crimes of being Green Arrow. They had a doppelganger come in as Green Arrow, so that acquitted him of the crimes. Then Barry Allen over on Flash was said to have murdered someone. They got a doppelganger in of the guy believing to be murdered that he wasn't murdered, so Barry Allen was acquitted of those charges, okay? Those echoes, I'm like, why would they do the exact same thing in the exact same season? Now the Arrowverse has done the exact same thing in the exact same season finales. I'm sorry, does that seem just like lazy writing? I get it. We're talking with time travel here, but to me that seems a little lazy that 2 of your 4 or 5 shows have the exact same ending to them. To me, that just seems a little lazy. So I just wanted to point that out a little bit. Legends, of course, still stick with its zany ending. On this one, they had to create a theme park to save the world, which sounds stupid. But again, Legend always toes that line between ridiculous and zany. And why would you expect any less from this season finale? But sticking with Arrowverse just for a sec, I mentioned, of course, the crossovers coming up, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, guys, like I said, I haven't watched Supergirl. I know there's a little tease at the end of that. There was the tease for Arrow and the tease for Flash in regards to Crisis on Infinite Earths. You're not getting one for Legends because, like I said, they're not going to come back till next year, so the Crisis is going to be before then. And then, of course, you have Batwoman that's going to be in it. So Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, Batwoman are all going to be involved in the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Black Lightning is a superhero DC show on the CW, but still we know has no connection to the others. So Black Lightning and Legends are basically going to sit out Crisis on Infinite Earths. We're dealing with multiple realities here. We're talking, some time travel, possibly other stuff. Why would you leave out the key characters, the Legends, who deal with time travel and fixing reality on a weekly basis? Plus, you have a more cast of characters to go with. I'm not saying they might not throw a couple of them in there, but to completely leave them out, they didn't set up at the end of Legends like they were going to be involved in it at all. Which, Legend, I gotta say, is probably my least favorite show out of all the Arrowverse shows. Maybe Supergirl too. But to leave these characters that deal with reality-altering situations all the time, and to leave them out of this huge event, which is probably going to be, the big event of the entire setup of this whole shared television universe they got going on, I think it's a mistake. Of course, I'm hoping they'll still surprise us and bring in Black Lightning. Maybe throwing a couple Legends characters at least would be nice. And of course, they're bringing in Batwoman, who is getting her own show starting off. I wasn't highly impressed with what she did in this last year's crossover, but they're going to try to promote her. I get it. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm just a little worried that they're going to try to make it smaller. Crisis on Infinite Earths was a huge storyline in the comics, of course, so I think we need to make it as big as possible. They did that with Crisis on Earth X. This last one, again, they tried to make it a little smaller with the Elseworld storyline. Crisis on Infinite Earths has to be bigger than what Crisis on Earth X was. Right now, it's not shaping up that way. So, of course, give it the benefit of the doubt. I always try to be hopeful about these things, but time for you guys to fire back, of course. Let me know what you think about anything going on in the Arrowverse. Arrow only has 10 episodes left. Looks like Oliver might be sacrificing himself in the upcoming Crisis. And then let's not forget, at the end of Flash, Flash is supposed to disappear Barry Allen in this Crisis, which is what happened actually in the original storyline. So there's a lot of questions, a lot of theories, a lot of things we can talk about. Fire back on the social media groups and Gmail account, and let's discuss them. Okay, guys, so of course I'm going a little over. That's all right. I try to keep myself between about 20 minutes or so. Lately, it seems like I'm going 30 plus. But if you're still hanging in there, I greatly appreciate it, which means you enjoy what I talk about. So kudos to you. So last thing I want to talk about Amazon came out with a new trailer for their upcoming show, The Boys, based off the comic book. Basically, the premise is a group of vigilantes set out to take down corrupt superheroes who abuse their powers. That's from IMDb, kind of their tagline, so to speak. And this new trailer, I enjoyed it. The show's lead is going to be Carl Urban, best known for in Star Trek. He played Bones. He also played the recent Judge Dredd, which was a very awesome comic book movie that not a lot of people saw that I wish we would get more of. But anyway, this, of course, like I said, based off the comic book. I read a little bit of the book. Not a lot, okay. I know the basic premise. I think I read the first 2 or 3 volumes of it. I liked it, of course. I'm definitely going to check out this show. And it's interesting, of course, because with these shows on the streaming service, one thing I like is they're allowed to be a little more edgy. Look at the Marvel Netflix shows. Look at other things that DC is doing on their streaming service as well. Things you can't do on the CW or on Fox or on ABC. You're willing to toe that line. It doesn't have to be hardcore R-rated, but you can kind of let the material be what it's supposed to be, I guess is what I would say, where you don't have to hold back the language or some of the violence because you're on, one of the main networks, so to speak. That's kind of what I think holds back the Arrowverse a little bit is, having to appeal to that PG-13 audience. When some of the stuff, some of the material, not necessarily going over the line, but it could be just to give it that little flair for the storyline. So The Boys in the comics has been known for a lot of, weird and violent stuff, of course. We can expect some very gratuitous stuff, language, all that kind. I mean, obviously from the trailer, that's what you're getting. So for that, I say, that's great, but let's make sure we're not getting lost in the story. From that, I mean, you're going to give me these characters that are, going to cause some violence. They're going to, say some bad words. You're going to see some superheroes do stuff that you wouldn't see do up on the big screen in a Marvel film or on the Arrowverse on your TV. Okay, make it more real world, I guess is what you would say. You have that one where this speedster is running and accidentally runs through a person. And, when you think about it, I'm like, okay, it's a casualty. It's something that you might actually encounter if these heroes were real. I get it. But let's make sure that even though we're trying to make it more real, we're not losing the sensibility of it and focus on the story and the characters that are going to draw us in and make it seem believable. An action scene means nothing unless there is the character drive to really pull us in and care about the action. So you can have all that, violence and cool stuff happen, but unless I care about the characters doing it, it's just white noise, really. So that's kind of my fear. Also, another thing is the fact that we also have Watchmen coming out on HBO. Again, another show kind of depicting superheroes in a real world scenario. There, I spit it out. And, going a little edgier, so to speak. So I can say there probably will be comparisons between the two shows because they're both dealing with superheroes that cross that moral line. I think The Boys is going to play it a little more fun than what Watchmen is going to do, but I feel like there are going to be the comparisons. The Boys is coming out first, comes out at the end of July. I like the trailer. I love the part, of course, with the little Spice Girls on it. Give it, again, that little fun twist to it, which I think will be enjoyable to watch. You guys let me know what you think, okay? Does this look like it appeals to you? Do you feel like maybe it's going to be a little bit too much white noise and not enough character? You guys, of course, fire back on the Facebook group, Twitter account, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Let me know what you think about the trailer. Let me know if you're going to watch The Boys. And, of course, let me know what you think about any of the topics I've discussed today because I am done, guys. I'm going to go out, enjoy the rest of my day. My plans, I think me and my wife might go out to lunch since I have the day off. We might go do that. Might take my daughter swimming, actually. I haven't mentioned before, of course, she broke her foot. The last day of school for summer break, I took her to a trampoline park and she broke her foot. So her foot's in a cast right now. But we finally got a water cover to where she can go in the pool. She loves to swim like I do. So hopefully we can use that for her to still go in the water. So maybe I'll take her swimming. Maybe I'll mow the lawn. I know, I lead an exciting life, guys. It's the burden I bear. But time for you guys to fire back, of course. Let me know what you think about anything I've talked about. And, of course, Facebook group, Twitter account, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Also, guys, if you have enjoyed this episode and the episodes before that, head on over to my Patreon page and donate $1. Guys, I do this show with a $20 microphone and 8-year-old computer, and I edit it on Windows Movie Maker. I'm just that high class, but I have a passion for it. I love to do it, and if you love to enjoy me do it, then send me $1. $1 a month, of course, means it gives me more of a drive to do a better show, maybe even if I get enough to do some better equipment and to improve the quality all around. Also, of course, if you guys are in the Austin area and you want to guest star, I'm always open for guest stars. I hate just me talking here by myself. I think it's a much better show when I have someone sitting next to me with a rapport. So if you guys, of course, want to talk about anything, you're more than welcome to. And that's it, guys. Go out, enjoy your day, and until next time, may the force be with us all.